right, we're good to go.
Where's Emily?
I'm right here. So welcome everyone to the 2021 Volleyball Rules Interpretation Meeting. I know I was looking at the list of attendees and working here for now 7 years. I know many of you and have been able to meet many of you. So it's very interesting doing this virtually. But for those that haven't met me, my name is Emily Gates. I am the Volleyball Sport Administrator at the OHSAA. So I just kind of wanted to quickly hop on and introduce myself. Mainly, you will be working with Diane Place, our Volleyball Director of Officiating Development, who you will hear from momentarily. But I did, again, just want to introduce myself. If there's anything that you need, you will reach out to Diane mostly, or our officiating department, whether it be Charles Anderson, who is new to our office, or Tyler Brooks for any OHSAA officiating department related questions. Questions about NFHS rules and that kind of thing are directed to Diane. But if there's anything with any OHSAA administrative rules, whether it be set tracking, participation, or guidelines on things, those will come to me. But you can always reach out to Diane or the officiating department first, and or any one of us, and we can direct it to the correct person. So we look forward to this season and things kind of feeling back to normal, that kind of thing. But again, welcome to this year's meeting, and glad you all are here, and I'll turn it over to Diane.
Thank you, Emily. Hello, everyone. This is going to be very informal. The good news is there are very few rules changes. The bad news is the PowerPoint is very boring because there are very few rules changes. The state meeting, my portion is about 23 minutes, and it is very boring. So I'm going to spice this one up a little bit. I'm presenting part of the NFHS actual PowerPoint. I didn't think we needed to do everything. We are in a recovery year from COVID, and hopefully we're not going to be in a ramping up year of COVID. Right now, we have no COVID protocols in place. Officials are still allowed to mask, use electronic whistles, whatever you need to do to make yourself feel comfortable officiating. And if any of that changes as far as the COVID protocols we used last year, we will certainly be in touch. Some other things that I'm not clear on yet. We're going to talk about the changing of benches. That was actually very well received last year under the COVID protocol suggestions. So some states are actually staying with not changing benches. I have reached out to the coaches group, and we don't have a decision yet whether we're going to continue to change benches or stay with not changing benches. The warm-up protocols, again, we eliminated the ball entirely for regular season and the postseason tournament for the off team in warm-ups. It's a safety concern, and last year I think that worked very well. But again, the Coaches Association and I will make the decision. So look for, if it changes to what we had last year permanently, I will let you know that. Otherwise, consider that we're back to what we were before COVID protocols. The local meeting videos, I'm just going to make some announcements that I just asked Tyler. I will be posting 2. And the first one of those will go up in early September with 1 week to watch it to get credit. I have 2 left from last year, and I have 3 more that are being produced. I'm going to look and see which ones are more relevant for what I want to do right now, and those will be the 2 that I choose. Last year's videos that we used, I believe, are going to be housed, if they're not already, on a YouTube channel. And when I have that link, I will share it, and any of that can be used for local meetings, however you want to use it. The state meeting will be posted tomorrow, July 23rd through August 21st. Do we have any questions of me before I get into the PowerPoint, the changes?
Hey, Diane, just a couple here. Will referees be able to use blue and gray shirts this year?
I'm going to address that, but the answer is no.
Okay.
And here's the reason, and it's the same reason that the Federation did not make more changes. This is a recovery year. We want very little financial issues going forward, because we know that might be an issue for some people. So buying a new shirt could have been a financial hardship. And plus, I want to make sure that we have availability when we actually change. So the plan is, and I've been in touch with some of the approved vendors, is to introduce the blue next year as an option. But I will specifically address that in some of the changes. And I want to emphasize something that Emily just talked about. It's highly recommended that officials not respond to some of the sport-specific regulations and the general regulations. Oftentimes officials think they know the answer, and quite often you do, but sometimes you don't. Those specific questions should be directed to Emily to make sure that the right information is given, and we don't have a team that has to forfeit a match because they did something in response to what an official told them that was incorrect. So I've been asked to emphasize that. I'm going to go into the rules changes now. It will not move the slide. That's very weird. There we go. Okay. The changes were made with some societal, I'm tongue-tied, I'm sorry. There are things that we've become more aware of with everything that happened last year. And one of them is the sensitivity to respecting a player's religious beliefs. Previously, we would have asked this player, in these 3 play picks, to ask for permission to wear their religious headwear. After a situation in Tennessee last year where a freshman was denied being able to play, and the decision was made by the state association, that was brought to the national attention, and that triggered some changes within the Federation for all sports. So now, if the headwear is worn, I'm sorry about that. It's on a timing. If the headwear is worn for religious reasons, it must be made of non-abrasive soft material. It must be secured legally using less than 2-inch bobby pins or hair clips. There's still a safety issue. If it's falling off during the match, the first time we're certainly going to let them resecure it. The second time we might talk to the coach to say, we need to do a better job of securing this for her safety, her teammates' safety, and her opponents. If there's ever a doubt whether a head covering is for religious reasons, the rule is, when in doubt, play. And send a report to through the reporting system on MyOSHA, or you can email me directly, and I will deal with that with Emily. So all of these head dressings are fine, they're legal. They must be securely fastened so they don't come off during play. And the devices you can use are whatever is listed as legal in 416, which are, bobby pins less than 2 inches long, unadorned, barrettes, those type of things. Any questions about this part? Okay, I'm going to move on. So this was from the seasoned guide, I just thought, I'd mention, they talk about them wearing, I don't like to say these words because I mispronounce them, a hijab, whatever, a helmet made of polyethylene foam. So something that is worn for a medical reason does not apply to you being able to do it without authorization from the state. The process would still be that you request that authorization, and I have a slide later that goes through the whole process. So if it's for, obviously for medical reason, there should be a letter of authorization that coach is carrying to every match and available for officials to see. This is from the case book, and I want to specifically look at the second one where it talks about it's loosely draped over the head and held together with magnetic beads. Magnetic beads are not part of the legally securing objects. I'm not sure that we'll go there or not, but there's a lot of discussion about all of this at the national level. So since you can't use the magnetic beads legally, the officials need to deal with the coach and say, these are not legal securing items. You need to secure it in a different way. On the webinar, they talked about feathers, that in some cultures, feathers are part of a ritual, a religious ritual. So I think they will be addressing feathers, and, beads actually came up too. So be prepared that some things that we've always done may change because of some of the societal changes that have occurred from circumstances of last year. This is where the question came from earlier. By state association adoption, we have the option to use gray shirts or the bright blue shirts. And you need to understand where these colors are coming from. The language is adopted from the NCAA and USA Volleyball. There are shirts that are called certified volleyball shirts, and these colors have been acceptable for a few years now. We will not adopt that for this year, and I talked about why. Expense and availability. I want to make sure that we have them being manufactured so that you can have them when you need them. And I went with the blue because I think it's going to be amazing contrast to the Ohio High School logo when we do it. Some of the questions I've already been asked. No, you will not be able to use your certified volleyball shirt if you have it. I'm sorry. I know that would be cheaper for you, but Ohio High School has a logo that we put on our shirts, and we're still going to do that. They can be long or short sleeved. I'm not sure how much availability there will be with the long sleeve, but I'm going to try to get some of those in the pipeline as well when I talk to the approved vendors. Let's go back to.
Hey, Diane, we have a question about ball caps.
About what?
Ball caps.
Ball caps?
Yes.
What does that mean?
I'm going to guess, and I guess the question is asking, can players wear ball caps? Not a lot of direction on the question.
No. That would not fit religious headwear, and I doubt seriously that it's medical. If they can somehow convince Emily that it's medical, then they'll have a letter of authorization that'll say they can wear it. But off the top of my head, if I saw a player with a ball cap. Now, having said that, we're going to need to be sensitive to, let's say, cancer issues. Let's say someone has lost their hair because they've been through treatments. That might be something that is approved. So, I'm not going to judge that ball caps are illegal, but there's probably a medical reason why they're wearing them, not just for the fact of wearing a ball cap. And officials can do that as well. We have officials that have been through cancer treatments and they've lost their hair and they decide to wear a scarf or something to cover their head. That's all okay. We just like to know that it's happening. Did I answer that question for the person? I'm going to move on. If they re-ask something, let me know.
I will.
Okay. So this is something that we have always done in Ohio. And they just put verbiage in the rules to say that we can make temporary adjustments in officials' uniform to accommodate varying conditions within the facility. So if it's really hot, we've always said that black shorts are okay. I'm going to push that a step further, and you'll see later in the language, I'm going to ask Charles to put something new in the handbook. I would like these to be dress shorts. We have way too many variations of shorts out there. And we say dress pants or slacks. Let's go to dress shorts. And, you know, if I have to go grab verbiage from a country club or whatever, you want to be professional. And when we do wear shorts or we wear a colored shirt, we want both officials to match. I'm sorry, this is a default, I guess, of going ahead of me. All right, accommodations. So when we go to colored shirts, the white shirt will be the default. If the blue is worn, both officials must wear the blue. As far as line judges wearing the blue, that would only be the case if they're professional line judges and they carry both sets and they could put the blue on if they want to. We are not requiring line judges to be part of the same color scheme unless they have the shirts and want to wear them. So in that case, if the officials were in blue, the line judges would be in some form of white. We don't require them to have a shirt, but an approved shirt for Ohio High School. So the other thing is we've always allowed long sleeves. I don't think we have a good approved long sleeve shirt. Again, I'm going to have to go to the vendors and find out what is available. One of the options the Federation put out there was a pullover. But again, I want to stress, whatever we put on that's long sleeved needs to conform to what the colors are. So this year it has to be white. And next year, if you're both wearing blue, then if you need to go to something long sleeved, it would need to be blue. So whether that's going to be possible or not, I can't say due to whether the manufacturers can get it all together in time. But the colors do matter. And we want both officials in the same color and both officials either in shorts or dress slacks. And the default for that is dress slacks. Any questions on that?
No questions on that. We did get a question about, will OSHA provide a patch, or will people be allowed to get a patch versus embroidery for that blue shirt?
I don't think so. I think all the other shirts, and I did look at all of the shirt requirements of all the sports in the handbook. I don't think there's any with patches. Soccer might be the exception to that. But as of right now, I'm leaning toward what we do now, embroidered or sublimation. But that is still in the working through stages. So it's not totally off the chart, but my guess is we'll probably stay more with embroidered or sublimated OHSA logo. Anything else?
Well, that's all for now.
All right. So this is sort of what I'm proposing for the officials' uniform changes in the handbook. I added polo style because last year I had an official wear a collarless shirt. So this is for clarity that it is like a golf shirt with a collar. And then beginning with the 2022 season, we'll introduce the bright blue as an approved color. And in subsequent years, white will be the default, and both officials must wear light colored shirts. I'm eliminating black skirt or black culottes. And if someone needs to wear that for religious reasons or whatever, they can contact me and we'll work that out. So we're looking for the default is black dress slacks or pants. And if it's really hot, then both officials wearing dress shorts is fine. No, this is actually a rules change penalty that is a rules change. Last year, we had very few rules changes too, if you'll recall. And last year, the roster, maybe it was the previous year, but submitting a roster late, the penalty was less punitive. It was an unnecessary delay penalty. So in this play pick, we have the pre-match warm-up going on. By 2 minutes left in the pre-match warm-up time, the coach should have submitted their lineup. And I think it just switched on me again. Yes, it did. You know what? It never did this to me at home. All right, here we're back. So, I'm going to talk about preventive. We would rather not get to this situation where we have to start even with a yellow card administrative penalty for unnecessary delay. If we can stop this from happening, I highly recommend that we do. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to badger a coach at 2:01 or 2:05 left. Well ahead of that, you might remind them that they need to have their lineup submitted to the second referee no later than 2 minutes. So in the play pick, we show the clock as 1:30. We have no choice but to actually penalize this. So at this point, the second referee informs the coach that we're going to start the match with a yellow card penalty. And the second referee makes sure that the scorebook, the scorer, records the yellow card penalty in the comments section. And then the second referee is going to whistle when she has all of her other duties, or he. When she's coming to the court to start play, there's a whistle. The second referee steps to the side of the offending team. They put the yellow card to the back of their outside wrist. At that point, the first referee does the same signal. There's no whistle needed there unless we have something really odd going on. And then, the second referee does everything they need to do to give the "I'm ready to go" signal to the first, and we start the serve sequence from there. All right, let's say that they've really had a bad day and they haven't submitted that lineup before the zeros on the pregame clock and the horn. Now we have to advance the penalty to an unnecessary delay red card. So what's the sequence? The second referee is going to inform the coach that we are starting with a red card penalty. That's first game of the set because we're in the pre-match time frame. And then the second referee is going to make sure that the scorer records the RUD in the comment section. Second referee is going to turn to the court, do all the things they need to do, like checking lineups, all of the we're going to play whistle. And when they're done with all of their duties, then they step to the offending team side and show the red card on the outside of their wrist. So in this sequence, we've actually had a yellow shown at one point and a red shown at another. But we're not going to, we showed you pictures that way. The way it's actually going to play out before the match starts is the red only is going to be the last thing we do before the service beckon. We're not going to show that yellow as I showed you in 1:30. So the first slide was if that's the only unnecessary delay penalty we have on that team. It ends up being the yellow before we beckon for serve. In this case, when they've pushed it to the red, it's the red only we're going to show. Second referee is going to step to the side of the offending team, red card on the outside wrist. They whistle and do that. And then the first referee shows that same signal. First referee checks for readiness for the second, and then beckons for serve how they would normally do it. So 2 unnecessary delays on the same team prior to the set, the match, or a subsequent set, and we'll talk about it, you only show the red to start that set or the match. Okay, so this is the interval between sets 1 and 2, and then 2 through 5. You have to submit your lineup prior to 1 minute being left on that clock. In this case, we're at 30 seconds to go, which hopefully the second referee tried to get it earlier, and the coach did not comply. This is an unnecessary delay, and we're going to start the sequence of yellow card on the wrist. Again, the second referee informs the offending coach, make sure the scorer has written it in the comment section, turns to the court, does what they need to do to be ready to go, steps to the offending team side, shows the yellow on the back of the wrist after they whistle. I keep forgetting that whistle. And then the first referee mirrors the unnecessary delay, checks for readiness, and we start the set. Now, if we get to the red in both circumstances, let's say we are now at, we know they're going to get one because they weren't ready at 30 seconds to go. And now we're at zeros and the horn is sounded. We are now in the red, the escalation of the penalty. Again, only the red is shown and doing the sequence as I've talked about it. In this case, after the second referee lets the offending team know, the team that's going to get the rally point, if they're receiving, it would be helpful to let the receiving team know that they are actually going to be rotating once the red card is given, because that is a loss of rally, and the receiving team, if it's the serving team offending, will be the first to serve, and they need to rotate. And what that does to the serving team now is their first server will not serve until the 6th rotation after this happens. And I've just included the exact rule from the rule book here. I am going to share this with you. I'm not sure of the timing of it, but I've put together the rule book stuff, the casebook plays. Here is the extension of the rule in the timed interval or intermission after set 1 and 2 through 5. Unnecessary delays do not accumulate from set to set. They accumulate within the set. However, for repeated unnecessary delay violations in multiple sets, that could be deemed to be some unsporting conduct. I'm hoping it isn't, but I can't imagine a coach ever putting themselves in this position in multiple sets. So it's in the rule book. I wanted to show it to you, but I would think that rarely we get to the repeated unnecessary delay violations and having to go to unsporting conduct. I've put the process, I've already explained this process, and I will give you the verbiage. The verbiage will come to you relatively soon, because I think this will be helpful at your meetings. Right. I've already done this one too. Right. So to summarize, for all unnecessary delays, the R2 informs the offending team's coach, ensures that the delay is recorded by the official, boy, I have a typo there, by the official scorer in the comment section. The R2 also ensures that the proper server serves after an administrative red card is given to the serving team, because that means the receiving team is going to have to rotate. After checking the lineups for both teams and completing the remainder of the required activities, the R2 whistles, moves to the side of the offending team, makes eye contact with the R1, and displays the appropriate card on the R2's outside wrist. The R1 then shows the appropriate card on the proper wrist. The R1 waits for the readiness signal from the R2 and then starts the normal process for calling the serve. So that's a summary of how to do unnecessary delays. And on page 71, the Federation actually has the unnecessary delay chart. I highly recommend, and I have that as a slide later, but that shows you all the unnecessary delays and the rules references. So this was a question asked in the NFHS webinar. This is where, prior to the match starting, the coach has not submitted their roster in time. So we have the unnecessary delay yellow card there. And then for whatever reason, they're also late getting their lineup in. So you have another unnecessary delay. Within the set or prior to the set, these two do escalate. So the thing that's going to actually happen and be shown, you're going to have the yellow card recorded in the comment section, but it's the red card that's also recorded there that's going to be displayed at the end of the sequence. And I think I've already discussed that too. Any questions at all about this process?
I don't think so, but I do have two other questions though while we're paused.
What?
Is the coin toss going to return this year? Was one question.
Everything that we did before last year's COVID protocols is back unless we tell them differently.
Okay. And then the next question is concerning the blue shirts again. Does a college official have to purchase an an Ohio High School logo shirt?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, but yes.
That's
okay, editorial changes. There were not very many of these. They did do a chart. There were many instances in the rule book where they said a state association could alter something that was not a rule. So this is a chart with the rules reference of what state associations can do by adoption. And it's page 72 of the rule book. I'm not going to read all these. We use a lot of them. Another editorial change, 543C, number 22. There's a statement in the official's manual that says direct players. So to make it consistent in the rule book and the manual, they have added the word whistle and direct players. And it's just for consistency between the rule book and the manual. 553B21, the word "the" has been inserted to make it grammatically correct. So neither one of those are a big deal. Let me go back. There was a correction slide. Somehow the rule book missed this. This was a change last year, I believe. So how the rule book would go back to the other way, I don't know. But on page 69 of this year's rule book, how to use the signals, number 15. 2 short whistles, rotate forearms around each other with closed hands at shoulder height 2 times. Right? You have to delete open hands. Just scratch it out. And this was the signal last year when the rule change was made. 2 times is all you need to do this signal. Points of emphasis. And again, they were really reaching for points of emphasis. I'm not going to go through every line judge basics that we depict on these slides. I think you are at it. You are very capable of doing this with your own group. You know, we get varying degrees of line judges. You know, they could be professional line judges who are certified. They could be adults. They could be players who have played in another, you know, freshmen, even though they're not supposed to be rostered players. You know, sometimes you just have to go with what you go with. I got to go back to that. So, you know, you need to determine right away what you're dealing with. Sorry about that. And when you know what their experience level is, then you cater what you say to them to not overwhelm them, but give them the basics of their job. So they need to know, we're going out during warm-ups and putting them in a safe place. And sometimes I didn't even take them to the court. I would just go to an intersection of lines, like maybe the basketball court is further away down and safer. And I'd set them up there. That was like being at the court where we're seeing them here. Show them their base position. Talk about that, they need to move if a player or players or the ball is coming right at them, and to get back to the base position as soon as possible. Let them know that they are part of the neutral officiating team now, and that we need them to not, talk to players or coaches or fans, and certainly not openly cheer for anybody. So, we need to be as active as we need based on their experience, but not overwhelm them, because if you overwhelm them, they're not going to do the job for you. So I already talked about getting out of the way. When a server is serving near, encroaching, I love that word. Actually, I don't. But, this is clearly, that server is right there almost at the extension of the sideline. And I would say anywhere from 6 to 10 feet away from that, inside, more toward the center of the court. Instead of going behind like we used to, we are now going parallel with the end line so we can keep track of the foot fault. And they need to stay there in that position until the player actually enters the court and, the serve is over. And we want them to get back to their base position as soon as possible, but in a safe way. The line judge basics. If they have flags, we're going to demonstrate all of this with their flags. If they don't have flags, then you need to use their arms as we used to do before we had flags. So you're talking about everything that they need to know. And one of the acronyms is FLATS, which is F is for football faults, L is for lines, A is for antennas, T is for touches, and S is where they stand at the timeout and in between sets. So you tell them what a foot fault is on the serve. You tell them they have 2 lines of responsibility, including their end line and their sideline all the way down to the other side of the court. You remind them that a ball has to touch a line to be in. You remind them that out also includes the ball contacting either antenna or not passing completely inside the antennas. Any part of the ball that would go over the antenna on the way to the other side of the court makes that ball out of bounds. The antenna goes from the tip of the antenna all the way to the ceiling. You also talk about, and how they're going to let you know if any of these things happen. And let's say it happens and you didn't realize it as first referee. You're going to talk to them about how long you want them to hold a signal like that and wave it. And, there are times when you might actually just have the call yourself and you're going to overrule it anyway. So talk to them, depending on their experience level, about how you're going to handle those situations. And you need to explain to them that touch signals are only needed for end of play circumstances. All right, so this is the standing position. At timeouts, you want the line judges to come to the first referee's side and stand at the intersection of the attack line and the sideline. And, this is not a time to really have a chit-chat session, but it is a good time if there's a question, if there's something that they're not doing or doing that you need to adjust, or if they have a question about something, by all means, use this time to communicate if necessary. And this is also the position they go to. Well, actually, no. At the end of the game, they're going to come here, but when the teams leave, then they're going to go sit if there's a place for them to sit, but they're going to be away from spectators and teams if at all possible. And you want line judges to be getting back in position so you're not waiting on them when the teams are ready. So when one team breaks, that's when the line judges should start moving. And that's in both circumstances, you know, be at a timeout or in between sets. All right, coach and official communication. Again, I'm not going to go through every part of this PowerPoint. Obviously, we are better off if we can communicate with the coaches in a respectful manner, you know, using rule book language when they have questions, not engaging in idle chit chat, and especially prior to the match starting. You know, we've all been there where a coach wants to complain about a previous crew. You need to nip that in the bud. If they have a specific rules question, that's a different issue. And I think that's a legitimate question to answer. But not gossiping about another crew, throwing someone else under the bus, saying this team does such and such and such and such, you need to watch for it. We need to get out of that conversation as quickly as possible. And you need to spend the same amount of time with each coach so that it doesn't look like you are actually, you know, favoring one coach over the other. Perception is reality, and the first impression is the lasting impression. So establishing a good rapport and respectful dialogue prior to the match starting is a good starting place. And hopefully it bleeds right into the match when there are questions and when, you know, the emotions intensifies and we have some, you know, adrenaline going. So a good referee listens rather than reacts. And when a coach has a genuine non-judgment question, use rules book language in a precise, efficient way. It's the second referee's job, and actually it's one of their most important jobs, is to serve and protect and to diffuse. You know, anticipating questions and being ready to answer it is a big bonus here. So, all right, it already flipped on me, didn't it? All right, during the match, we have a coach here who obviously has a question. They are outside the substitution zone, but they're close to the court. So it would be better to back that coach up a little bit, but since they're not inside the substitution zone, we don't have to walk them out of the substitution zone. We don't want a coach in that zone. Regardless of any previous history that we have with this coach, we need to start this with respect and a fair treatment, no matter what has ever happened before. So again, sometimes you can diffuse this coach, sometimes you can't. We all have our line of unsporting conduct, and I'm hopeful that most of us can stop this before we need to go to a card. Sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. But, you know, diffusing, learning how to do that is a skill, and sometimes it's actually just a trait that you have inside you. Some people, it's way easier for them than others, but this is a skill we need to learn, because you're going to deal with people who do not agree with what you have. And you know what? They may be right sometimes. So, okay.
Hey, Diane, I got 2 questions for you.
Sure.
The head coach indicates that they prefer to sit while an assistant prefers to stand. Proper procedure is that only the head coach can stand. However, would it not make sense to accommodate this coach's request? That's the first one.
Well, I would say we still are stuck with the coach's request, but I would like that one emailed to me so I can pursue it a little bit.
Okay. And the next question, and I apologize in advance, I don't understand all the volleyball lingo, but when RUD is issued, R1 would award the rally before authorizing the serve?
Yes, because the point is a result of the escalation. You're going to award it there and then start the next point sequence. And if that is clear as mud, have that person please email me and we'll talk about it. You know, I can even give you my cell phone number and we can talk about it in case I don't understand it. All right. This is commonly called toot and scoot. And I don't think we do it as much at high school as it's done at other levels of volleyball, but it's a good practice. You know, this should have been discussed in the pre-match of how we're going to leave the court. The bottom line is we do not want to stop and chat with players, coaches, fans, friends that we might have there. We want the officials to leave together, and if they need to talk about some things, which I think it's a great practice to always have a post-match. I'm not sure how many people really do it, but you know, a pre-match discussion and a post-match are very conducive to having a match flow well and discussing what maybe didn't quite go well and what went really well in the post-match is an opportunity to learn from each other. So second referee initials the score sheet, gathers both referees' belongings, and meets the first referee at a predetermined location to exit together. All right, state association adoptions. This was actually a fairly big discussion point in the webinar. A lot of states really liked not switching benches. And their rationale was you don't lose the time picking up all of your belongings to go from one bench to the other. So you have more time to do what you need, like talking to your team, getting lineups ready. And it just seemed to be, you know, there's a lot of support for this to be a rules change. There were 19 states, however, that did not play volleyball last season. So they did not have a chance to actually use this format. So that's why it wasn't put to a vote as a rules change. Look for that maybe being on the questionnaire and perhaps being put in as part of the survey questions. And, you know, I don't know how the Ohio high school coaches felt, but if they are overwhelmingly in support of not switching, then that's what we'll do. You know, this is being played for the players and the coaches. I am not going to make that determination for them based on what I think is right. So I'm waiting to find out what they prefer. Okay. Another point of emphasis. Don't we all love being the uniform police? Not. So manufacturer's logo, we all know the rule. They cannot exceed 2 1/4 square inches, and you're only allowed one logo on each piece of the uniform, including the waistband. So in this play pick, number 6 has a waistband that's, I don't even know what it says. It could be that it's too large or it could be multiple. And we all know that those shorts are out there. And in volleyball, it's one of the 2 sports that sometimes players buy their own bottoms. So if you ever go to a sporting goods store to look at what's available, most of them have logo issues. And if the player doesn't know what the rule is, they quite often can get something that doesn't conform to this logo size requirement or number requirement. We are saying, and I said it in a state meeting, this is up to the coach to inform their players who are buying their own shorts of what the requirements are. Again, we don't want to be the uniform police, but we just have to enforce this logo requirement. Now, in the case of number 6, a lot of times what's showing there is because they rolled the waistband down. If that's the case, then she can just, you know, roll it up and we don't have a problem. If they can fix it immediately, we just play on, no problem. So when ordering new uniforms, and this is mainly projecting out to 2023, in the play picks that we have shown, they're all white shirts and they're all legal until 2022 season is over. Beginning in 2023, play pick A will be illegal by this rule. And the reason is, beginning in 2023, the body of the number must clearly contrast with the body of the shirt. So clearly what we have is a white shirt with a white number trimmed in black. That will be illegal uniform in 2023. You know, I get a lot of coaches and manufacturers shipping Emily and I pictures, and, you know, we tell them that If it actually is what it looks like, then, I give them the whole rule and I tell them if I have any concerns so that they don't make a mistake. If you buy uniforms and they're all illegal, that's a pretty big financial hit to a school. So 2023, white on white, I don't care what it's trimmed in, is illegal. Okay, there's always questions about this. Uniform bottoms can be almost any style you want them to be. And it can be any combination of styles. So one can be wearing shorts, one can be wearing spandex, one can be wearing full pants, one can be wearing leggings, or one can be wearing skirts. Any combination of that, as long as it's light colored uniform bottoms, is legal. Right. So let's say we have a uniform issue. We want to find that issue as soon as possible and before the match ever starts. Some of them you can, some of them you can't. Depends on if they have the warm-ups on, whether you can see whether the Libero jersey contrasts, whether the numbers are placed right, the logos are right. I mean, sometimes we can't fix it before the match starts. If we can, or whenever we find a problem, we're going to approach the coach, not the player. And we're going to tell the coach what the problem is. And that, let's say they have 10 players on the roster, and it's one player that has an issue or two. They have enough players to play the match in legal uniforms, if in fact the two that have something illegal can't fix it. You cannot play with an illegal uniform, period. But here's the one instance that you can. If there are only 6 players that can play, that's all they have, all the uniforms are illegal and cannot be made legal, we are going to play that match. And we are going to submit a report to the state association after the match is played. So 6 only uniforms that are illegal, play the match and report it, and let state and or me take care of that situation. 7 players or more, and it's only 1 or 2, you have 6 players who could play in legal uniforms. The player who does not have a legal uniform and cannot fix it cannot play. Any questions about this? Don't you just
yes,
love?
we have a few questions, Diane.
Okay.
Hold on here. Are they allowed to roll their short waistband, assuming this doesn't expose illegal lettering?
Yes.
Okay.
We can't show bare midriff between the shirt and the waistband. But if it doesn't show an illegal logo, yes, they can absolutely roll it. They can roll it from the bottom up. We're seeing that a lot. It's like they go out every year and find some other thing to do to their uniforms to make it cool. But yes, as long as they don't violate bare midriff or manufacturer's logo requirements, yes.
Okay.
Anything else?
Next question is about benches. Can you ask the coaches at the coaches meeting if they would rather switch or not?
No, that's not the way we're going to handle this. It's going to be either we go back to switching or we don't. No, we're not going to give them the choice every day they play. That would be very bad for consistency. If the coaches tell me that's what they want to do, then Emily and I will entertain that thought process. This is not about referees. This is about the coaches and the players and their game. But I think for consistency, we're going to go one way or the other unless the coaches say they'd like to have the option.
Okay. Next question, can officials wear headsets during a match?
Yes.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll have some kind of a document that helps with getting them and how to use them. We had 2 matches, I believe, at state tournament that they used headsets. They're extremely helpful in the communication piece between the first and second referee. And sometimes they actually have a third set that goes to the scorer. So there's a lot we can do with headsets. I know it's going to be very awkward at first for someone who's never done it. So we're going to need some guidance on how to do it. And there are people who do it. And like I said, we actually had it happen successfully at state tournament last year. Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. Next question, can the head coach designation be changed in case the head coach becomes ill or needs to leave?
That's a probable yes, but send that to me too. You know, those kind of questions we can include in the This Week in Volleyball. Those are helpful questions for everybody.
All right, one more just popped in. Does the home team have the choice of side?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I will say that with the caveat that if we go to, we're going to stay on a side, and let's say that side has a lot of advantages. You know, just like last year when we said, if one side has clear advantages, of course the home team's going to take that side when they get the choice. But if there is a clear advantage and it has to be significant, then that's the match. We are going to switch benches so both teams have access to the better side equally. But that's, you know, we're not there yet because we're going to assume that we're switching benches until I know we're not. So in that case, yes, home team chooses bench. And in the other case, they do too.
All right, and one more, sorry.
Not a
no
problem.
lineup submitted by the horn results in a point penalty. Before starting the set, after showing red card on the proper wrist, the R1 should show the loss of rally to the opponent. I guess that's more of a statement than a question, sorry.
Yes. And I probably didn't go that far with my statement, but yes, absolutely. Because, you know, then you know that team's going to rotate when they get served. Or if they're the serving team, they're just going to serve again. You know, they're going to start their service. So that clearly shows who is going to serve the ball. Yes, I entirely agree with that. Anything else?
One more popped in. When will we know if the switching sides is a new rule?
I have made 2 inquiries about this. You know, this happens every year where we're all kind of, we all get ramped up in the middle of July for volleyball. I think this is a question the coaches did not know might be coming up. So it's something, it's taking them a little bit to digest. You know, you can't just, I don't know how they're going to do this, whether they're going to take a straw poll, whether the committee is going to make a decision. You know, right now assume that we are going to do it the way we always have, unless I put a memo out that says we're not. Okay? All right. I highly recommend this app. And I'm going to show you why, maybe not right this second. But what you can do with this app is it costs $7, okay? And as the state interpreter, that is clearly a legitimate expense in my position, because the Federation does not put their rule book out as a PDF, because their rules books are a big part of you know, mitigating their expenses. So they are never going to do that, I don't think. So what you get with an ebook is you get a digital version of the book that you can go in and copy and paste whatever you want. And that's the part of the PDF. You know, you can search just like a PDF. You can highlight. You can make notes. It's very easy to navigate, and it's right there. You know, let's say you're at a match, and of course we don't want you having your cell phone in your pocket or even having it at the table if it's set to go off. But, you know, having it at the table and it doesn't ring and you're not doing it while you're working, if you need to look at a rule, it's very easy to access it on your mobile device if, in fact, you have an ebook. I use the Kindle ebook version for my my Surface, and I will show you how that works later. So I highly recommend this one. This one is a new feature, and I can't recommend it yet because to me there's a lot of glitches. It's a rules app that unfortunately right now you have to buy the ebooks again in order to use it. You know, I've already bought the ebook. The only one that's available right now is the rules book. The casebook manual is not ready yet. But if I want to use this app, and the reason I would want to use it is because there's a cross-linking between the rules book and the casebook. And that's a very handy feature, especially for interpreters. And actually, as a, let's say as a normal official, I may be not so good at back row player stuff. You can get the back row player rule and link it right to the casebook plays, if in fact that works. This app has some glitches, as I said. I think it might only be able to be used on Apple devices too right now. So there's going to be quizzes, searchable, highlight notes, bookmarks. You know, when they get all the kinks worked out, it's going to be okay. And you can look at it at nfhs.org/erules. I can't recommend it yet. I do have it, and I tried to play with it, but it hasn't worked yet because I don't want to buy the rule book again, even though, you know, $7 won't break me, but I have to sign in too, and it wasn't letting me do that. So sorry for all my little frustrations, but I like to try these things out when we're going to talk about them. Now, this is my ebook version through my Kindle for my PC. And I will have to go to the internet to show you. You know, the arrows let you turn the pages, and the little spyglass on the left-hand, you know, sidebar, you can put keywords in there. It'll search for you. Very handy. It's how I go grab rules. When I make an interpretation, I use the rules book language and or the casebook play that applies. It's far better than shooting from the hip and using your own verbiage. You get in trouble that way. This way I don't. But I highly recommend this. And if you don't have your rules book yet and you want to dive into this a little bit, although there aren't very many changes, you know, $7, especially if you're an interpreter, I think it's a legitimate expense for your association. Go get it. And it's not really that hard to do. Okay. Now, I wanted to show some resources. And again, these are not on the internet right now, so I can't really navigate them as I would. If you go to the homepage for Ohio High School, you click on sports and tournaments and go down to volleyball. This is what you see. And, you know, this week in volleyball, that's where those documents are placed. Some of those are certainly, some of it's geared to officials, a lot of it's geared to coaches. I think it's very valid to at least check in on those when we post them. There's also, let me go to my page. This is the DoD page. And this is what I have on my DoD page as available resources. So last year I had memos on July 8th and August 3rd. This is going to be where my memos that I put out in mass email are stored. And there's going to be one of those coming soon because I made an interpretation that everyone, including coaches and maybe even ADs, I think Bo wants me to copy everyone. I made an interpretation that doesn't change a rule, but I will show you that in a little bit. But this has all the presentations that have been done since 2016. Some of them would have to be updated because rules have changes or points of emphasis, but there will be new ones that I'm going to post here. So every once in a while, check it. And, you know, feel free to use any of this in any way you wish for a meeting. Some of these could actually be used with very little changing to help you with the meeting. All right. This is where you go to check for rules changes and publications on the nfhs.org site. It's under activities and sports and go to the downlink of volleyball. So it shows what happened with the Tennessee player who was not allowed to play with her hijab on. It talks about other things that happened last year, the rules changes, and it tells you what publications are available right now. And as you see, the only one that's showing is the actual rules book. I highly recommend that everyone at least explore this site, nfhslearn.com. There's so much more there than sports-specific courses. There's a lot. Inclusion, interscholastic officiating, there's stuff for coaches, there's stuff for parents. It's just a there's so much there that I don't think we are using to its fullest capabilities. One of the newest things there for officials, it used to be you could not use an electronic whistle, and we allowed that last year due to the droplets issue with COVID, and it's still okay for this year. So they felt the need to put out a video showing how to use the electronic whistle and still do all of your signals. So it's a very short video, but it's from both positions as the R1 or the R2, showing you how to sequence that. So that's a video I recommend watching if you're still using the electronic whistle. So there are two sports officiating specific things for volleyball. And this is the newest one. It's a couple years old, and I really like this one. It's the officiating alignment. The objectives are listed there. There's a you make the call section. I highly recommend this one, especially, to people who really don't know that much about alignment, maybe your new class people. And it actually could go for, mid-level volleyball officials. It wouldn't hurt them to see it either. It gives you some of the sophisticated lineup reasons too, but I think this one is very well done. So the first one they did was ball handling. Ball handling is very, very hard to depict legal and illegal in a video, because anything you slow down almost automatically looks like it's illegal. So this is well done. I recommend it, but you just need to know that it's not that easy to do ball handling via video. The next one that they're going to do will be online judging. So look for that in the future. Now, something I don't know that everyone is aware of, there's a National Federation network. By 2025, they'd like to have, I think it's 2 million games broadcast. It's a great destination for fans in 27 different sports and activities. And I think this year it's going to be 150,000 live broadcasts. So I believe our state tournament was on there last year. I don't know what else Ohio High School had on the network, but go to nfhsnetwork.com, I believe it, and see what's available. I think it costs a little bit to subscribe, but if you're a junkie at watching, whatever sport you want, they also feature student athletes, student broadcasters, and other events that are of interest to fans and parents. So this is my one interpretation that I've already done. I was asked a question about this rule. I want to caveat this with, I don't know how many times we've ever used this rule since it's been in the rule book. So this year I want to find out. If you ever review a decision because a coach has a question and we start the process, I want to report, because I want to document how many times this happens. My fear is that once I show this, then the coaches are going to say, I can review a decision, but the bottom line is they have the right to do that. So this is the part that's highlighted, is where this discussion happens, if in fact they do ask for review. This one will show us better. When a timeout is so granted, the head coach shall confer with the first referee at the first referee's platform. That's what the rule book says. The interpretation is, and there's a couple of reasons why I made this interpretation, the conference will actually be held on the bench side of the court instead of at the first referee's platform. I cannot see a really good reason to bring a coach. They probably don't even want to be over there either, to the first referee's platform. The first referee does not have the rule books or the case books. So to facilitate this, to prove that whatever ruling is right, if in fact you have to do that, you're going to want the rules book language and maybe show the coach quickly. So Doing it this way necessitates the second referee bringing somebody's casebook and rulebook over. It just is not as efficient as it could be. Facilitating this conference on tableside is a much better way. It's not a change of rule, just a change of location of the conference. So how can a coach do this? If the coach feels there's been a mistake in interpretation, the review must be requested during the dead ball immediately following the situation. They approach the second referee, explain their question. The second referee listens and then advises the coach that the process includes the possible charging of a timeout if the decision is not changed. The second referee, if the coach decides to pursue it, then the second referee asks the first referee to come to table side. They discuss the call, they make a decision, and once the decision is made, they communicate that decision with the coach that's asking, the opposing coach, and with the table. Specifically, the table needs to know if in fact we've changed a decision. Again, not a rules change, it's just where the conference happens. If you get a review challenge, and I'm going to call it challenge even though it's not said in the book that way, it's a review. If the coach pursues this, I want to know about it. I'm going to track how many times it actually happens. Any questions about this process?
Yes. Is there a certain number of times that a coach can ask for a review?
Well, they can ask till they use up their timeouts. And then if it's, if they never get the change, then it's going to cost them a point after they've used up their allowable timeouts. So there is a consequence. And if they choose to go that far, then, they choose to go that far. I just don't see a coach doing that. The only way that they could challenge a judgment call is if it in fact impacts, let's say a back row player, whether they were clearly above the net or something. There is a judgment involved there. So we can't say that you can't challenge a judgment call. But there are some judgment calls that I could actually discern that would be challengeable. So, but the bottom line is, an illegal hit or not, they're going to lose that discussion. So, that's where a good second referee will say, let's say it is about ball handling. As a second referee, I might say to the coach, you can't really challenge ball handling. And maybe they stop and we don't even go through the process so they don't risk losing a timeout. Because clearly that would be one that an official is never going to change. So the answer to the question is they can do it as many times as they want up until the fact that it's a farce, probably. I could see that becoming unsporting, actually, but let's not do all of those what ifs. I'm hopeful that this stays something that never happens or rarely happens. But the bottom line is the process is there if in fact they feel that a mistake has been made, and we need to honor that request.
All right, two more related to that. Is it considered a protest? And if the decision is overturned, do they get their timeout back, or is the timeout not taken?
If the decision is overturned, there is no timeout charged. There is no protest in high school volleyball, so just wipe out that word. There's no protest. We don't accept them, and we do not change the result of the match after the fact. And I think I answered those questions.
Yep.
So this is a chart in the book, I believe it's page 71, that gives the schools the sequence of how to ask for, an accommodation for a student with either a handicap or whatever. So the coaches are encouraged to do this early in the sports season, and if in fact it's approved by Emily, then they have to carry the letter of authorization, and that will be on Ohio High School letterhead, and the coach needs to have that readily available at every match. All right, these are just some things that I pulled out of the meeting and out of the written material. We still have some pushback about talking about other rule sets of volleyball. And I want you to know that in the webinar, they're talked about freely. It's not like they're bad words. Collegiate and USA volleyball are just another rule set. The Federation adopts what works for high school athletes, but they don't just disregard what's going on in the collegiate ranks or USA ranks. So these changes this year were made to reflect societal and sport-specific trends. The language for the colored shirts was directly taken from the NCAA and USA volleyball certified shirts. These are just things I want you to leave this with. You are to be a facilitator, not an enforcer. It's preventative versus punitive. And if you haven't noticed, every year for the last 3 or 4, there's some rules change that downgrades a penalty so it's not as punitive as it was. So, get that in your mindset that we're going to prevent something if we can, if we have the time to do it. And if it's proper to prevent, safety is always a concern in prevention. We have to think about teamwork with everyone, and that includes the coaches. So it's teamwork with our partners, it's teamwork with the line judges, it's teamwork with the table people, and it's actually teamwork with the coaches. We are both there for the same reason with different outcomes. Most of us are there for the love of the sport. And I know that some are more intense than others, but the bottom line is what makes it best is when we all work together. So when the time limit for the roster or lineup is about to expire, help the coach out if you can. Or, if they've given you reason to think they don't want help, then fine. Let them violate and you have to go to the punishment. But, let's say they give you a lineup that there's an obvious error. They've listed 2 liberos. Point it out and let the coach fix it. If there's a possible overlap, like a setter's leaving too early, or they're really close to a side-to-side or a front-to-back, discreetly at the right time, talk to the coach about it. Now, if you've talked to the coach and it still happens and it's an obvious thing, then you're going to have to go out and get it. But you gave them a chance to fix it. And when in doubt, we're going to let them play unless there is a safety issue involved. So when in doubt, you let them play. And that's reflected in the ball handling trends. If you read the ball handling stuff, the religious headwear, if you're in doubt at all about whether it's religious or not, we're going to let them play and then report it and make a determination of what it is for. So some of the other things. Consistent language about being less punitive. That is found almost everywhere. The PowerPoints, the rules book language, the rationale for rules book changes. We need to understand spirit and intent of the rule, knowing the history and the rationale. That will help you enforce something the way it's meant to be enforced and not nitpicking. Starting a set or a match with negative that could be taken out of the game in the first place, that's what we want to do. Us being overly officious is not good for anyone. It doesn't help the match. And the match is about the players, not about us. So know the uniform rules and make every effort to notice issues prior to the match. The goal is to allow 2 teams to play if all safety issues are addressed. Perception is reality. How you dress reflects your attitude toward the importance of the match. First impression is the lasting impression. And I challenge all of you to be the partner that everyone wants to work with, not the one that when you see the name on the schedule, you cringe. All right, so communication to me starts with respect, respect, respect. It's a team concept. I already talked about it. prevent rather than immediately penalizing if possible, be proactive, anticipate questions and issues, diffuse rather than incite, realize momentum swings and they might want to time out. You know, multiple points have been scored against them. They have normal substitution patterns. You know, as the R2 and even the R1, we should have a feel when those whistles are going to happen. Listen rather than react. Respond using rules-based language, concise, efficient discussion, recognizing the need for help by a partner and how to give that help. And we've already discussed that in pre-match and post-match. And, you know, using informal signals. You know, some people like to use them in different ways, and I need to fix that too. Be a student of the game, know expectations of officiating that contest and exceed them. Evolve and embrace changes, and then broaden your horizons. The NCAA and USA Volleyball, or even high-level high school volleyball, none of that is a bad thing to watch. In NCAA and USA Volleyball, let's just get past that they're bad words. They're not. We're allowed to say them. We're allowed to talk about it. We are going to use federation rules and federation mechanics always. And if anyone doesn't do that, I will be the first to come down hard on that, because that's showing respect for the game that you choose to accept. So I'm going to get off my soapbox and thank you for your attention. And I'm willing to take whatever questions now, including, you know, stoning if that's what's appropriate.
All right, Diane, we got a couple questions here. One, I apologize, I didn't get to earlier, I missed it, about lineup cards. Are they to show them to their team when turned in by the opponent, or are they to be left turned upside down?
You know, I'm going to have to look that up. I don't know if we hide them from the opponent or not. And I'm sorry, I don't know. I did read that and I can't, if someone can look that up for me, whoever's on the call, I will look it up too. What's another question?
The next question is, wanted clearance on USAV to OSHA reciprocity. Are regional officials considered class 1?
Yes. They have to go through, you know, we sent out the requirements to do that. And I actually gave them the form that they have to fill out. So they do not have to take a class. They have to pass the test. And they will be class ones once they pass the test. I believe they have to meet the meeting requirements too, but that's all spelled out in what I sent out to them. The lineups, I'm not finding quickly. Someone remind me of that. Email me that question and I will get that out too. You know, collegiately, we clearly hide it. I'm not sure that we do that in high school. And let's talk about lineup cards a little bit. When we are checking lineups of teams on the floor, you do not use the lineup sheets. You have to use a lineup card. That's what the Federation says. They have never changed it. So that's one reason that you do a lineup card, is to put the lineups on the lineup card so you can check the lineups prior to every set. So do not use the lineup sheets to check your lineups. And I will answer that question if someone will email me about hiding them or not. I doubt that we really hide them, but again, I've been thinking about way different things than that lately.
All right.
Trying to make this is much spicier than what people are going to watch tomorrow. So hopefully this is better. I don't know. Any other questions?
We have answers on the lineup card. Lineup cards are to be kept from the opponents until submission deadline.
Oh, but after submission deadline, then it's fair game.
Right.
Yes.
Looks like one last question here. What do we do with shorts/pants when someone wants shorts because of heat and the other wants pants because they're uncomfortable in shorts?
The default is long pants.
Okay.
And I know that's a change, and I know that it probably will be violated, but let's try to get into a more professional uniform. You know, we call it the official's uniform. And when we're wearing so many versions of shorts and pants, and now we're going to introduce more colors, we need to step up our professionalism and wear the same length of pants. Am I going to come down hard this year because somebody violates that? Probably not. Now, that's not free reign to go do it, because it's what the sport deserves. And it's what I would like, but I know it's a change. So I know it's going to take some time to come around to it, because we've been able to do pretty much what we want for so long that we think we're entitled to do it. But I honestly believe that how you look reflects the respect that you have for the game that you're doing. So I'm going for a more professional uniform look, and it may take me a while to achieve that. Anything else?
Nope, that is it. I did publish a link in the chat. If everyone clicks on that and fill out that form, you'll get credit for this meeting. Just want to put that out there before we get too far removed.
Well, I want to show them one thing on my ebook that I think is really cool. Where is my ebook? Here it is. All right. I have a library of ebooks, and it meant downloading Kindle for my PC. So this is this year's rule book. You can search for whatever I went to page 71 and it took me to page 71. So let's say back row is is the question of the day, or it's something you're weak on. You just click on it and it shows every place that back row is mentioned throughout the book. So you can gather all of the back row information, copy and paste it into a document. And that's how I do a lot of, presentations for my meetings, is going and gathering all the rules book and case book. As soon as the case book comes out, I will do this too as an ebook. I like to have the information on the topic all in one place. And this is how I do it. So this is what it looks like. You can, you turn your pages, and it's very easy to copy and paste. So I highly recommend the ebook. So that was one thing I wanted to show you. There's plenty of the sites that I would show you, but we've probably gone long enough. Although we could go to 4, but I'm sure people don't really want to do that. Not in a year where there's 3 changes only. I want to encourage anyone who has a question to contact me directly, and that would be best in email first. And if we need to talk about it, voice to voice, I have a cell phone. I get texts. I've had people text me from the side of a game, Diane, this is what's going on. What should we do? Sometimes I can handle that. Sometimes, I'm the caregiver for my mother. That people need to know that. And that is my first and foremost important job that I have. She's 89 years old. She's blind, and I am the one responsible for taking care of her. But this is my passion, doing this for Ohio High School and for volleyball. And it's really for the sport. It's for the love of the sport. I never played this. It was very hard for me to get most of these concepts, and alignment was one of the toughest ones. And I don't know as much as people that have played this game or coached it, because it's a different perception aspect of the game. But what I do is I try to watch and I try to learn as much as I can, being a non-player and a non-coach. And, I've been able to, do stuff like this for Ohio High School, assign college volleyball, all divisions, including Division I. So, I've had some success learning it, but those who are not volleyball players or coaches, it's a tough sport to learn. So anyone that goes out and tells a football referee or a basketball referee, volleyball is really easy, you should do it, you're doing a disservice to volleyball and actually to that person that you're telling that, because it is not an easy sport to do. And if you do it right, the mental part of this sport is one of the toughest in all sports. Standing there as the first referee without being able to move to relieve pressure, like you can in other sports, football you're running, basketball you're running. But in volleyball, it's like you're God in front of everybody as the first referee. So there are mental aspects of this sport and the speed of the ball that, we need to give this sport the due respect it deserves. And I'm sorry, I'm back up on my pedestal. I love the sport. I love to watch referees get better, and I love it when we do a great job at state tournament. Having line judges be PABO certified has been the best thing we have done for this sport for a very long time. I'm so pleased with how that has happened. I know there was a lot of pushback. It wasn't my program to start. The coaches, got it voted in, but it was my job to get it rolling, and we're in a good place with that right now. So it has helped officiating at state tournament immensely, and hopefully at the regional, and in some cases during regular season, because I know there are some high school assigners who are using certified line judges. So, nobody has to be a line judge. So I don't feel bad for people who say, they don't want to be a PABO certified line judge. You don't have to be. And the only required space for that is during tournaments. That's the only place we require it. You can be a line judge the whole rest of the season if that's what you want to do. But if you want to work Ohio high school tournaments, that's where we started this, and it's going to continue. So I'm trying to get off my soapbox. Any other questions for the good of the order?
Just two more quick things. One question is, what is the process for start and end of a match? Are they shaking hands at the net?
We are going back to how we always did it, unless we tell you differently. I have a feeling with the way COVID is going, especially if Ohio becomes worse than it is right now, that there may be some COVID protocols put back in place. But we are going back to where we were before last year's protocols for COVID. So yes, we're shaking hands right now, but stay tuned. Again, we have to be flexible and adapt. And, I appreciate everyone who did everything they could last year to help these teams play volleyball. It was quite an undertaking for both sides of that coin. It was expensive, and it was a dedication on the part of referees to do what they needed to do to help the games go on. So thank you to everyone who could do it. And, I appreciate the ones who could not. I understand opting out. Let's just hope we're into the recovery year and not back into the COVID year. But like I said, stay tuned and stay flexible and be ready to adapt if we have to. And by all means, contact me with any questions. The first contact should be through an interpreter for the association for normal questions. A lot of interpreters can answer them before they get to my level. But if it's something the interpreter's not sure, then by all means, they should forward it on to me. I get a lot of people who come directly to me. The better process, and actually the more learning process, is to talk to your own interpreter. You both learn that way, and maybe even your association, because it's a question that's openly discussed at a meeting. So again, I'm not going to stand on the process. I will answer you. If I don't answer you right away, then push me again. You don't know how many emails that I get. And I'm sure that Charles gets 100 times more than I do a day, because he's got multiple sports. I have one sport for Ohio High School, but I do a lot of other things too. So sometimes emails get buried, or they go to my spam folder. If I don't answer you within, let's say, 36 hours, give me another push. So at this point, I'm going to say thank you, unless there are any more questions. And I wish everyone a very safe and healthy and rewarding volleyball season. You know, we all need that. It's been a tough year, and now it's time to just enjoy volleyball and enjoy officiating again. So good luck, and I'm here for you. I'm one of your team members. So thank you. I appreciate you, and I value you.
Before everybody leaves, I understand the link is not working. I did not put the link together, so I don't have access to fix it. So if you received an invitation to this meeting, Tyler will give you credit for the meeting. If you did not get an invite for this meeting, please email Tyler and let him know that you were here and you will get credit for this meeting. So I apologize for the inconvenience. I would fix the link if I had access, but I do not. So
Did you
again,
text Tyler, Charles?
yes, he's driving, so he cannot fix it while he's driving.
Okay.
So again, email Tyler, or if you got the invitation, accepted it, you'll be all set for this meeting. And I apologize for the inconvenience.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all the things you do to help volleyball officiating be the best it can be. We're signing off, right, Charles?
Yep, we are signing off. Just making sure I get all these. No last questions, and we're all set.
Great.
Take care,
Thank you,
everybody.
Charles. Bye.